All right, we're live. Look at that. I thought that'd take a little bit longer to actually start streaming us, but
Right into
bang
it.
on time. Bang on time. G'day everyone. For those that don't know me, my name's Andrew. I'm the CEO over at UXPin, and today is the first episode of Pints and Prototypes, which is something that myself and Jack are going to do once a month if we can. Extremely relaxed. We're going to jump on, have some beers, talk through some design and prototyping methods, showcase some new tools that we've been building, and just have some fun. So, yeah, my name's Andrew Munn. Again, I'm the CEO of UXPin, and I'm joined by Jack, and I'll let Jack introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack. I'm the head of product here at Merge, UXPin, and I focus on the merch product.
Yeah, and what are we going to go through today, Jack? We're going to do some. Obviously, we've got a couple of people watching, so if they've got any recommendations, we're happy to hear them as well. But we're going to show off Merge, show off some of
Yeah,
the new features. We've been working really hard to release some new AI features this year, which we've done. So yeah, I think the main purpose today is to show some of them off and also test your skills under pressure and under the influence of alcohol as well.
bring it.
I
Yeah,
like it. I like it. What are you? Speaking of alcohol, you got a beer in front of you? What are we drinking today?
I do. I do. So I live in Colorado in a place called Littleton, which is right in front of the Rocky Mountains, right on the foothills. And I found this beer that I've never had called Living the Dream. And the
Nice,
Highline
nice,
Canal is essentially right down the street, and I live right about there. So
beautiful.
crack it open and get it going.
There you go.
Good
There
looking.
you go. And I've actually got a pint glass now. Whether I drink a pint today or not is to be determined. As you're aware, Jack, I'm pretty under the weather. I don't usually sound like this, but living in a house with two toddlers, I'm often exposed to many diseases. So they've got me this week, so I'm a little bit sick. But my beer today is called the Paradise Punch, and this is from a Brisbane boutique brewery called Range Brewing, which is also where I got the glass from. So shout out to Range Brewing, and this is actually from their 2024 range wrapped range. So what they do is all of their best beers through the year, the best sellers, they often have a barrel or two left over of those beers, and they actually remix them and re-release them as a new spin, and then release them generally over the Christmas period. So I've got a heap of beers just after Christmas, and I've been working my way through them. So we'll see how this one goes. It's an oat cream IPA, which I've never had before. So we'll see how it goes.
Right.
It may kill me, but we'll find out.
And we're using
So,
glasses because we're classy.
yeah, at least we'll have it on camera at least. It's also 8:30 in the morning in Australia, so cheers, cheers to the
Cheers.
breakfast beer.
I believe it's the first beer we share, man.
Yeah, first of many. Hopefully
Yeah.
we get to do it in person soon. That'd be a treat. But all right, we've got the big important stuff out of the way. So we're obviously drinking beers, and we know what beers they are. But
Right.
what let's probably start before we cover what we're going to go through today and jump into building some stuff out. Obviously, Jack, you're a big driver of Merge, which is one of UXPin's newer products, and something that we've been working heavily on this year since I've become part of the team. So, can you just give for those listeners that are watching today just an overview of what is Merge, what's the benefit of Merge, why would someone want to use Merge versus a traditional design tool?
Right. Absolutely. So Merge is more than just a design tool. It's actually a prototyping tool. And what's really sets us apart is that you will be prototyping with live code, meaning a design system. Some people use Material UI, MUI, Ant Design, Bootstrap. So it offers a set of global libraries already built in to the tool. And as you're prototyping, it's actually developing the code for you. You're working with the live components, their actual properties. And where it really shows off is if a company has their own design system, we're able to integrate it. So you're no longer pushing pixels. You're not creating vectors and just bitmaps, and hoping to create some kind of interaction that communicates the interface. We're actually building that interface. And then, of course, it's got all kinds of collaboration tools. You can, designers can communicate with developers, bridging that gap that we know is there. And what's really exciting is that we now have AI integrated. So AI actually learns your design system. It learns from your documentation. It learns how to use the components and how to make the right decisions for your design. So I'm excited to jump in. What we're going to do today is actually build a landing page for this podcast that we can publish later and promote the podcast.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty of subscribers looking for that web page after today's first episode. So it makes sense to get through and jump in and do that. So I guess today we're going to focus mainly on using the AI tools, and then as we go through, we'll also mention how we could do this manually in the same space. But for now, we'll focus on the AI because that's all the vibe at the moment, and it's making our jobs and the jobs of designers and developers a hell of a lot easier. So awesome. So we want to jump in, Jack, straight in.
Let's do it. I'm going to share here.
Perfect.
And I'll do a little tour first before we jump into the AI, kind of give the concepts of what we're working with here. So this is Merge. And as you can see, we have some global libraries that are already preloaded. Today, we're working with MUI 5, which is a tremendous JavaScript React library. It pretty much offers all the components you'll ever need to create AI. So this is built in an atomic way, meaning all the components are here from their smallest parts to more evolved patterns. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of what the manual approach is if you were to design without AI. And we'll start simple here and just look for a card component. And when I drag that card in here, you'll notice that in my layers, it's broken down into other components that are children of this card. And inside of that, and any component that you click on will have now the properties. These are the actual coded properties that this coded component is capable of managing. So for example, if I want to display this as a video player, I can. I can also change the order around because we're like in a layer in standard format here. Or I can select any children and modify its properties further. So let's use the H5 variant and let's pass it a primary dark color. In this case, these are the tokens that are tied into the theme. There's full theming also, which we'll look at later. But in this case, here is the default theme that MUI gives us. And what we'll do is let's select the header here and drop it out. Let's look now for a rating component and drop that into our canvas. You can see it's in the top level of the canvas, but I can drag that in anywhere into the prototype as I wish. And essentially, that's how you start building your patterns, your interface. So we just created this simple card that, of course, could be duplicated, and we can throw that into a grid. But for right now, I'm going to show you what the preview of this would look like. So you can share these prototypes. You can select all kinds of configurations. You can lock it down by a password. They can be shared via email. They generate a QR code so you can see it on different devices. And then, of course, you can embed these prototypes as well. We're going to go straight into the preview. So now we're in the simulate mode. This is where you actually use the prototype. And as you can see, these are live components. And any state that these components have reflects. All their behavior is also live. This is not an artboard that is flipped, right? Like some other software.
So, Jack, just to stop you, it looks like your preview might have opened on a different tab, so we can't see that one on the screen. So
bear with me here.
You're good. And while Jack's just looking at our tech issues, those components are pre-made, a lot of those. So they'll come directly from the libraries that are preset. So MUI libraries, the ShadCN libraries, all the other libraries that we integrate with. And you can just drag and drop and edit them as you see fit. So Really cool capability, and that was in place before the AI tools, which we're going to continue on to very, very soon.
Okay.
But there you go. We've got your screen now, mate.
Right. So I clicked on share or preview, which opened up this interface. And now this is where we actually get to use the prototype. As I was mentioning, these components are alive. They have state management. All their behavior is exposed. And of course, this means you can prototype pages that are full interfaces, not just a simple path, right? Like we do often with UX software. What's really impressive is when I go to the Get Code tab, I'm presented with a few things. Right off the bat, I get my dependencies. These are the imports of each component and what design system or what NPM package it came from. In this case, we're using MUI. If this was a private proprietary library, it would be that company's NPM package, that company's code. And from here, we also get functions, which is what handles the star mechanism. And finally, what's most important is the JSX code. This is the code that you need to generate this front-end interface. And there is no translation here. This is all clean code as it's supposed to be generated by that component. Even more exciting is that we can open this directly in a sandbox environment, which will create a React project for us, giving us our interface that we just worked with, as well as our code that developers can now refactor or bring into their project, do as they wish.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. It also handles responsive behavior. You can, I know there's some people that accessibility is very important to them on this call. It can become a tool to help you with accessibility. It works with screen readers as well as all the ARIA tags that you would need. So it's a full tool, it's a full stack platform. And of course, there is a whole team mechanism here that we can get into in future podcasts. But it's essentially an enterprise tool to centralize design teams as well as UI teams, or it could just be used by developers or designers.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to dump that, and let's now get into AI, which is what really excites me. We're going to create two scenarios. First, we're going to try to generate a full interface just from a single prompt. And then from there, we're going to break that down and actually do it in a more procedural manner where we're actually building a grid and then filling in the content for each one of those areas. So I am cheating a little bit here. I have some prompts pre-created for us because I'm a two-finger typer and you'll never have any more. So right up here in purple, we see the AI button. And this is our AI component creator. I'm going to plug in the prompt and let it generate while we speak about this UI, because it will take about a minute to create this full interface. But here we get to pick which library we want to build it out of. We're going to stick with MUI for today. And of course, if your library was integrated, you would see it here. And what we're doing is creating a full width stacked fully responsive layout to promote UXPin Merge. Notice that I'm not giving it any information on what UXPin is. It's going to go out into the web and actually gather that information. It's going to have a hero, a sign up, an episode archived. Let's do a carousel, some frequently asked questions, and a footer. Very simple prompt. We're not really giving it much to go on. So it's going to select based on the documentation of MUI and based on what it knows of Merge and create an interface for us.
Yeah, for sure. And that output, I assume, is going to be quite large, right? Because we're not really breaking the landing page down. We're doing the whole thing. So hence why it's going to take that little bit longer.
Right.
To generate.
And for that prompt, it was about a minute.
Yeah.
So here we go. Here is the interface that generated. This is all live code. This is not a picture. This is now built with those MUI components, like what we looked at when we played with that card. And from here, I can now go into the tree and start modifying things if I wish. So maybe we want to see this in the outline mode and so forth. Mm-hmm. Or maybe we want to start dropping other components in. And again, there are many. This is great. but of course, it gave us a full product. We're going to do a little different, and we're going to actually work on each section at a time in a minute. But I do want to preview now and show you how this works in the simulate mode. So in the simulate mode, I can now go to full responsive view and I can check the responsiveness of this layout. And as you can see, when I scale down, the grid is going to collapse down to a one column, and all that has been done already for you. There's no any component that has behavior is already plugged in. And of course, with the tools now that Merge offers, you can start wiring this together. You can maybe create a pop-up or a modal, and when you click on Start Free Trial, it opens up a login form. That's now the beauty of Merge. You're going to generate behavior and functionality. It's not going to be a flat image. And then, of course, if I go to get code, I can select that full interface and look at the code, or I can go into the tree and select certain elements. But we'll go ahead and select the top level here, open in the code editor, and you'll notice that interface will come right in. It'll be fully responsive. And here is all the code that it generated. This is clean code. This is MUI code. This is a copy and paste or a publishing of this directly. We have our imports and our JSX code, which is really the important stuff that generates the UI. Okay, so we looked at the full interface design here, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a full page, but from scratch. Mm-hmm. There are other scenarios that you can use AI for. For example, you can create a pencil sketch and bring it in, or you can bring a balsamic sketch, something that is very basic, and you can ask it to create a layout for you. In this case, I used some of our tools here to create a gray box model. And with this now, I can ask it to generate the shell that we will fill in. So I'm going to click on that AI builder once again. Actually, I'm going to right click and say, use this selection in a prompt. And now you'll see it attached down here. Now, yeah, with that little image, it's actually what I've passed it in. And now we're going to say, create a responsive layout shell with a logo image and a navigation as seen here. So we're purposely starting in a low fidelity, right? In this case, it was just a few boxes or a balsamic sketch or something from, say, Figma. And now we were able to generate a responsive shell that we can start working with. So I'm going to ping that here to the canvas and go full width mode. And we now have our starting foundation to start building our website or our page. And then, of course, if I open the preview and simulate mode, I can now see that this is, in fact, responsive. The about show and sign up will collapse down. And we're ready to start adding content. So let's start here with the image. I can click on that image, and it's always going to give me the components. So you're not stuck with whatever AI gives you. You're working with AI. You're collaborating with AI to get to your end product. So in this case, it gave me a placeholder logo, which I can now select our Pints and Prototype logo. And we'll change the width and height here to 150 pixels. And there you go. Now, what it's also done, it's generated styling. When I click on the app bar, you'll notice that there's some CSS here. We can override that CSS, and you don't need to know CSS. We can just select from this dropdown. We'll go with background, add that field, and now we have a color picker. So I'm going to select that background color of blue, and now we're ready to go with that app bar. We're ready to continue. So let's now work on that hero banner. Again, I'm cheating here with the prompt that I have pre-created. And this time, I'm going to show you our helper, our AI helper. Whereas this was the component builder, whenever I select a section or a component within our structure, we have the ability to communicate with AI and have it manipulate that section only. So by clicking on AI here, I can pass it this prompt. We're saying add content promoting the podcast with a large image, a call to action before the image. Let's use also a full width layout. And there we go. It's created that content for us. Now, again, there is a whole bunch of CSS that you'll see here, and you are free to start modifying that as you wish. So there is that content area that it gave us. And we're ready. Just like that, I can now continue evolving here by maybe dragging other elements in. Let's say I can look for some tabs, drop that in, bring those tabs above typography, and then I could even go full width on that, depending on the variant that I'm giving it. So that's essentially the process. We're using AI as a tool. It's not meant to replace the experience or to give you the end product. It's for you to work with it in a procedural way.
And it's a good start state, right? I think the biggest thing from founders, especially technical founders that I've spoken to, they just want to iterate. They want to start a project and get something live really, really fast. Where they struggle usually is a start point. They're usually really, really good at iterating and editing designs, but they have a real hard issue with getting to a start point. So I think this, especially the previous section or previous project that you showed where you did the one prompt, gave a full landing page, then they could go in and iterate it. Whereas, section by section might be more relevant to designers that are trying to match styling, use their own design libraries and things like that. So I think some really good options there, especially with the AI helper. For me, it's great to start with AI, and then my technical abilities start to run out. So the AI helper and the introduction of the AI helper means that I can now take that project a lot further because I can iterate with the AI and then pass it to someone technical like you to fix all the stuff that I break.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I mean, you can even take screenshots of already created pages or websites and have AI recreate that in live code. So you're never really needing to start from a blank canvas, which is the blocking point, right? For a lot of developers, front-end developers, as well as stakeholders. All right, let's go ahead here and add the guest spotlight. Actually, the episode archive section here. Once again, I'm going to click on that AI button and pass it our prompt. And we're telling it to create a responsive podcast here, episode archive section with past episodes, some filtering chips, and give it a 3-column grid. And then we're telling what each card should contain. Now you can see this prompt is very simple. And the art of, the skill of prompt writing is essentially an art. You can get very granular here and have AI really make really great decisions. In this case, for our purposes, we're letting it make some decisions for us. But you can see here, it spit out exactly what we wanted to see. And you're not stuck because you can iterate from this point on. If I select this box again, right, where all the content is, I can now iterate further and say, this is cool, but let's add let's see here. Let's add So let's add a star rating component under each title. And just like we did manually, it's going to go ahead and do the same thing we did, drag that component in, but it's going to iterate to each card here. So all of them are going to be done for you.
Mm-hmm. And the important thing here is, right, because we started with MUI library, it's going to be pulling MUI components in, right? So If we were to get to a point with a customer where it was a custom design library and their own design library, it's going to be pulling those components from their own library and making sure everything's consistent in regards to style.
Exactly. And not only is it going to be pulling its own components, but it's going to know which are the right components to pull based on that design system, based on the documentation that is available. It's referencing not only the component, but the use of that component. And here's that rating mechanism dropped right in where we wanted to see it. Again, it's creating some code here for you, but this is all optional. You can always delete it, and it goes back to that initial state of MUI. So you can start with a clean you can revert back to a clean version that has not been modified if you decide to theme this, which we'll do in a little bit. All right. I know this is going to be a little repetitive, but each prompt that I'm writing is providing yet another example of capability. So we're going to do the same here for the guest spotlight, and we're going to toss it this one. So in this case, we're getting more granular and we're telling it what to do. We're going to create a horizontal scrollable carousel for the guests, and it's going to have a collection of cards, and then each card should contain, and as you can see here, I'm saying what kind of format I want it in. Give it to me in a 2-column format, and I'm specifying what goes in each column. Whereas before we kind of let it do its thing and create the composition for us, we're now giving it more instructions. And there you go. Okay, let's move on now to the sign-up form. This is rather cool because it gives us a little more design opportunity. And for this prompt, we're telling it to create a container called Stay in the Loop. And we're going to have an email field in there, 2-column groups of checkboxes, and these are the checkboxes we're passing, a submit button, and then even a helper icon with a tooltip component associated to that. And here you go. This is what it spit out. It can give us a background image. And from here, you can modify anything you wish. Let's go ahead and preview it, see how it's looking so far. You can see there, again, this is all live components. And there is our form that we just selected with the pop-up. Okay, how about this about section? In this scenario, we're actually going to tell it to create an accordion, and then we're giving it 3 options of accordions, 3 sections to collapse, and then we're saying select an icon for each accordion. So we're not even specifying what the icon is. AI is looking at the content and selecting the icon that it sees appropriate. So you can see it's selected for tools, it's selected a wrench, and of course a microphone here for the recording workflow. It added some about section, and you can see the grid remained intact. As we add more content here, this section is growing. So all that responsive behavior is already done.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And here is what our prototype is now looking like.
One of those backgrounds looks like my beer label.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite colorful.
It's because AI is also watching you.
Yeah, it's watching me. It's listening.
And that is the process, right? I mean, and then we can, of course, reiterate and tell it to add more elements here. Or now I'm free to use my toolkit of components and start dragging other elements in. So maybe we can select something like a modal or a dialogue in the case of MUI. And the dialogue, we can set it off screen if we want. And of course, I can design this as I wish, drop more components in. But what I want to do now is show you interactions. Interactions allow us to wire things in. So in this case, this dialogue has an open property, right, that handles its visibility. Well, what if I wanted to trigger the visibility from a button like the play latest episode. Anytime there is a component, you're going to have a set of interactions. And in this case, the interactions work in a 3-step process. There's a trigger. In this case, it's going to be a click function because it's a button. Then we can set conditions. We can test variables on the page, or we can test properties of a component on the page. We can even write JavaScript for more intrepidous developers that are on the call. But in this case, we're going to forego the condition, and we're going to go right into the action. And under action, you can see we have various options. The one we're really interested right now is set property of a coded component. When I do that, it's going to look for all the components on the page and give you that. And of course, I can hover and select it directly. But in this case, we're just going to look for dialog. And now all the properties that dialog is capable of is mapped. So we're going to go ahead and select open. And now we're going to say true. So when I click that button, set the open property of dialog to true. That interaction has been added. And of course, if I select that dialog and start as false, when I preview now, I can launch the dialog. And I can do the opposite process with the X, right? I can say when you select, yeah, exactly. Close it when we select that.
Beautiful.
Basic interaction. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, it looks like from what I can see from the AI, it's almost added some sort of theming or consistency regarding button colors, things like that. Is there any other way we can, is there an easier way to override that? Let's say that my company's styling has a particular, style that we run with our call to actions being a certain color, with our fonts. Is there a way we can do that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. In this case, we are going to have some styles that were created. So I'm going to create a new page here, and we are going to select some components to drop into the screen. Again, handy card, maybe tabs, checkbox group, or radio group. And as you can see, there's no shortage of components. They're all here for you. Every single component in this design system is available. Okay, and Merge offers a tool under the utility category called Theme Customizer. If I drop Theme Customizer in, it's now going to give me access to all the tokens that are part of a MUI theme. And of course, this will vary depending on the design system that you're using. So if you're using your own proprietary library, your tokens will display here. So let me just set this to outline so you get a better visual. And now I can tell it to maybe display the dark mode. And it's going to change that for me. Let's start modifying some of these tokens. We'll go with an orange or this Roman color as the primary. And then, of course, for secondary main, we can go with this green color. And we would, of course, need a component in here set to secondary. And then I could drop that into the card section here, into the action section. But we can go much further than that. By selecting the theme customizer, we can now start changing the radius, the shape. And we can go here now with a rounded. You can see how it went from a 4 pixel radius to, say, a 40 pixel radius. You can see the buttons all changed. And now let's go ahead and pass it our font. So here, all our fonts are mapped. In this case, it's coming from Google Fonts. Of course, you can load your own fonts as well. If you're doing a custom integration, we'll select this Aleph font. And now if this theme customizer goes away, we go back to the initial core theme that Movie comes with. But now that we have this theme applied on the page and we preview this, we'll be also able to get the code for that theme. So under get code, if I select this card and open it, you'll see that it's going to pass that JSX. But on top of that, it's going to wrap it in the theme provider that Movie has. It's going to link your fonts, and it's going to give us that theme provider, which the components are linked to.
Awesome. I think that's really, really important, especially when you're trying to keep projects consistent. Everyone's played with AI before. AI is great, but I think the thing it struggles with most is consistency, right? Especially across projects, across different pages. So if you can keep that consistency and keep that across multiple things, then you're on the right path.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And talking about consistency, we should also mention that there is a full patterns section. So as you're developing patterns, let's say we like this theme, right? We can save it into a category. And of course, you can create multiple categories. This is where a team would load, say, their grids, their hero banners, their call to actions, cards, those patterns that we want to reuse, right? So by just selecting the component and adding it here, we now have a theme that can be leveraged in any prototype. So we took it away, and you can see I'll bring it back in, and I'll modify that. I can, of course, bring another theme that is loaded and see that result. And then, of course, if we liked this card, say we had modified it, we can drop that card into the card section and so on. So you can see how you're really building your design system for reuse. Another use case is if you're an agency or you white label an application, you might have all your pages already built. And if you want to showcase it for a different client, you're just dropping that client's theme in. There's various use cases. And of course, we're here to consult with you about what your needs are and guide you in the right use case and provide any information you may need. All right, let's head back to our podcast page and drop a footer here. Oh, one more thing, actually. Let's go back to the theme. Themes can also be generated by AI. So by selecting AI, I can say, create a punk rock theme with interesting fonts. And it's actually going to take that component and generate the theme. Of course, I could have defined colors and tokens and given it more direction, but there it is. And you can see the work, the choices it made. So results will vary.
Looks very Halloween. We might have to run one of these themes each month on UXPin's homepage and see what we come up with.
But no harm done. It goes away, and we're back to our default. Okay, so I think next session we'll start getting much deeper into UXPin. We'll work with interactions, with responsive behavior, and various other things. But are there any topics of?
Yeah, so I think we just got a question come through from Natalie. I'll put it on the screen there. So has your approach to prototyping changed since you started using Merge? Jack, you probably used Merge a lot longer than me, so yours might not have changed much. But I guess if I was to answer it as a non-technical person, obviously I'm a CEO with no real technical background. I came into UXPin around Christmas, so I've only been here for about 6 months. Previously, my prototyping really it was me talking to a developer, right? It was me writing down ideas in a Google Sheet, drawing pictures, and then asking developers and designers to turn it into something real. So since starting using Merge, I'm now, Jack, you've seen it firsthand. I'll go and generate a landing page. I'll generate a concept. using Merge by myself and using AI, and then I'll push it to you guys to iterate, make it a lot cleaner, and then go and get that stuff live. So that's how it's changed for me. I'm not sure if it's changed much for you, Jack, because you've been using Merge for a long time. But good to know if you've got any insight.
Yeah, well, I'll share that I've been straddling the world of UX design and UI development for about 20 years. So I've seen a lot of changes. I've worked in small teams, large teams, and agencies. And the process has changed dramatically now that we have tooling like this. Whereas before we had a dedicated, you have a business analyst that's giving you a scope document, which is a Word document with very abstract thinking at times. The designer is then going to try to translate that by drawing elements on the page. And then that's going to go back to the account manager. There's going to be a whole iteration process there. And then once that's defined, now the obstacle of communicating with development starts. And development doesn't have all the interactions. They don't know which components to use. At times, they start developing spaghetti code to make what the designer had created happen. All that has changed now because from the scoping aspect, a team lead can come in here and create boxes, a gray box model, and provide a low fidelity direction to a designer. Then a designer is using live components that are already governed based on the design system rules to create the mock-up, the prototype. Beyond that, we have the tools here that are going to share that prototype with development, and development will be able to see the specs that they need to select those components that are already built in the system. Most of them will be, and just plug them in. So a process that would have taken a lot of back and forth and many, many weeks can be done in a couple of days or even hours. It also centralizes all those teams together because they are now communicating with the language of that design system. They now know what the jargon is. An account person is not using carousel but it's really called slider. And then what I didn't show you is that every component here has linked to documentation. So this little button will link to the documentation of the button. And this is where the rules are, the use case rules. In this case, now we're looking at the code rules, the API, those properties. So by having that, we're now centralizing the communication. And that's what a design system is supposed to do. It's a living product that will continue evolving, and you want it to always be up to date. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen that in some of the feedback from our customers, right? For sure, is they've gone from taking 3 months to 6 months to ship something, from the design being done through to actually shipping it and publishing it, to 24 hours, less than 24 hours, and they were blown away from just having that handoff being a lot smoother. So yeah. I posed a question to the people on the YouTube chat just in regards to what do you want to see us build next. So we've had a couple of responses there, so we'll take them under advisement. A marketplace website and a dashboard with two of the mentions. So we can definitely look into that on the next call. We do have one other question, and I'm going to push this to Jack because I have no idea. But I'll place it on the screen here. It's from Arjun, and it's a little bit vague, but is there anything on the animation side?
Yes. So UXPin has two sides to it. There is a classic UXPin side, which is where you're going to do your your ideation. And this is more of like the preliminary place, like Figma would be, right? In that side of the world, you can animate things, of course, and give that feedback to your developers. In the case of coded components, that animation is already built into the components, or you might have components that do transitions. So in the case of MUI here, there's a transition section here, and you can see there's a slide, for example. And that slide now I can drop an image into. Let me drop that again so I know we weren't sharing. And you can drop an image there. And when it previews, you will be able to see that transition. And that transition now has parameters, right? The direction, the easing style, and so forth. So this is an example of a component that is already built, right? The coded version of that animation. So the design system should have those components already built. And if you're in the ideation stage, there's a whole side in the classic part of UXPin that does that.
Beautiful. Well answered. We'll give it a couple more minutes, see if any more questions come through. For you, Jack, is there anything that you're excited? Well, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we've had some discussions around some potential features and where we could take Merge. Is there anything that excites you on where we could take this technology? Obviously, there's some massive new players in this space. Some really cool tools, especially around the vibe coding piece. Probably that lack some of the stuff that we've discussed today in regards to consistency and styling and things like that, and design libraries. But does anything excite you in the future of where this technology is going? You've been doing it for 20 plus years, so.
Absolutely. I think the next phase of AI really excites me, because currently it learns your design system, right, and your rules. But UXPin has a whole system that archives all the prototypes, and you can create all kinds of documentation around each prototype, and you can link resources and so forth. The next phase would be for AI to learn your processes, to learn your design rules from other prototypes. So for example, if you build a table or a grid that you're using often in a CRM system, for example, when you ask AI to build a CRM system, you can be assured that it's going to reference what you've used and just get more and more accurate. And
Sure.
and then other things that excite me is getting AI into the workflow, just like we have it in the workflow here. Maybe some AI for properties or to develop styling for you, different areas of the workflow.
Yeah, and I probably cheat in that regard, because I will go, before I jump into UXPin or any other sort of AI tool, and I'll go and use AI, whether it's ChatGPT or something, to help me plan the project out first. Do some research on key competitors. What are all the best websites in the construction industry doing to convert? What does that website layout look like? What are the key components that I need? And then I'll create a prompt from that to bring into UXPin, into Merge, and replicate that with my own styling and things like that. So I think the future is obviously very, very bright, and we want to stay in the forefront of it. So we've got some really cool features planned as we progress through 2025 as well. So.
Absolutely. And we will continue adding more global libraries. ChatCN is another one that's coming in, as well as integrating the different AI models. As you can see, we've been using Claude, which I find amazing. But there's also ChatGPT if you choose to choose a chat. And we will be integrating more and more models.
For sure. I think that's it for questions from the group. Some of the guys asking questions have thanked us, and I don't think they've got many more. So we will wrap it up. For those that attended, thanks very much for coming, Jack. As always, thanks for your expertise and running us through UXPin Merge and what you've built out today. This is episode 1, so we'll be back in a month. Like we said, we'll build out some of your recommendations. So I'll send this out to a lot of the attendees who couldn't attend today. Stupid me, being Australian, didn't realize it was a public holiday in America. So I, again, appreciate Jack being here today. So I'll get this recording out to everyone. And if you've got any recommendations for episode 2 and what you want to see us build, let us know. Until then, cheers. Enjoy the rest of your beers
Cheers.
and enjoy your weekends. And we'll see you next time.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.